Okay, so let's see. John Steinbeck in. Now, none of this should be underlined. Right? And it's in Of Mice and Men. Now, here's the deal when it comes to book titles. If you're typing, actually, it shouldn't be. You're typing, it should not be underlined. It should be italicized. If you happen to be writing, obviously we can't italicize, then you would underline. So John Steinbeck in Of Mice and Men depicts that the strongest piece of evidence that indicates, okay, this is just wordy. Let's just say depicts that George and Lenny have a close relationship. There we go. George and Lenny have a close relationship. Okay, about readers know this when George and Lenny speak about how, okay, we have to say which one, how Lenny has lost so many jobs. How many jobs for them, and George has to find new jobs for both of them. And I wouldn't say it's like a cycle, it is a cycle, right? So it is a cycle for the two. Okay, now you're going to say this leads up to George knowing Lenny had a mouse in his pocket because they're having an argument. That doesn't quite follow. Okay. So you're kind of really giving two pieces of evidence. So you could have discussed this one, but yeah, okay, fine. Let's instead say George also knew Lenny had a mouse in his pocket after coming back from getting resources for a fire. Let's just say from getting wood for a fire. Okay. And here again, it's wordy. This adds to the evidence because, right? Just simply say, if they didn't have a close relationship, then George wouldn't have known what Lenny was going to think or do. Lenny tried to play it off as if he had done nothing. Okay, and played dumb. It's the same thing as trying to play it off. But George knew. Okay. So this is another cycle. So this is another cycle and again, this part here gets just wordy. George, okay. George, how about George could only know? George could only know what Lenny was going to do or think if they were close, which indicates that perfectly. Again, it's some awkward wording there. Okay, so now let's take a look at this. John Steinbeck in Of Mice and Men depicts that George and Lenny have a close relationship. Readers know this when George and Lenny speak about how Lenny has lost so many jobs for them and George has to find new jobs. Okay, so for them, yeah, and George has to find new jobs. Okay, again, we want to avoid repetition unless it's done for purpose. It is a cycle for the two. George also knew Lenny had a mouse in his pocket after coming back from getting wood for a fire. If they didn't have a close relationship, then George would not have known what Lenny was going to think or do. Lenny tried to play it off as if he had nothing, but George knew. This is another cycle. George could only know what Lenny was going to do or think if they were close. Okay, so again, what you need to do is go back and read it aloud, and you need to just polish up the wording. Okay? So you don't want your meaning getting lost in all of this extra phrasing and repetition. Make sure your meaning comes across clearly. And I hope this helps you.